Good evening, YouTubers. This is Jesse, and I'm just walking through my Ford F-150 window motor. Both motors on the left and right side are pretty much the same, so I'll walk you through kind of repairing your original motor if you have an issue with it. A lot of times they stop working for whatever reason. Sometimes you hear the motor, but nothing is happening, and then sometimes you have no power whatsoever going through it. So I'm going to hopefully kind of walk you through something that you might be able to do to fix the motor and not necessarily deem it completely bad if you spend a little bit of time. Personally, I like these motors is because they're powerful, and when you bring the window up or down, they go rather fast, and I kind of like that. The replacement motors from China aren't nearly as quick. They're not as nearly as powerful, and it's a pretty heavy piece of glass that they have to lift up. So I tend to repair these if I can before I buy a replacement. So here's the main parts of this particular motor. You have the gear that turns the actual regulator. You have this piece that sits in here like this, right? And then you have this gear that goes on top of that. So this screw motor goes through here, and basically what happens is as this gets power onto it, right, it's going to turn that motor, right? So, and of course you have the body and the magnet that's in here, all right? So how does it work? Well, you have this right here, which is a stator, and you have a magnet. When you apply power to the actual brushes, okay, what happens is it spins depending on the direction of the field, positive, negative, or negative, positive. It's going to go reverse or counterclockwise or clockwise. And this is what turns your regulator. So everything has to be clean inside. And what happens to these over the course of time is the brushes wear out, and when they wear out, they have to be replaced, all right? And it will stop working. Sometimes you have brushes that are okay, but what happens is the stator stops working. It's because it's either shorted, it's open, and you could do a visual check on this to see what's happening, right? So in this case, I've cleaned it, okay? Now, all the connections and wires seem to be in good shape, all right? And how you take a visual inspection just to make sure that things are good to go. Now you have a bearing on top of here, and if that bearing is frozen, then you're gonna be in trouble. It's because it's hard to get that bearing, all right? So you have this, and what happens is this will become black and charred, and it's not gonna provide a good connection, all right, through the brushes. Now the brushes have to be clean also, because if the brushes aren't clean and this isn't clean, chances are you're probably not gonna get any power to the motor. So the first thing you can do to verify that there's, verify if you can get this to work or not, is to actually do some cleaning here, okay? And that's what I'm doing right now, because it just stopped working. And I noticed there's plenty of brush life, okay? But this was super dirty and blackened out. The brushes were caked, and so I kind of cleaned the brushes. So how do you hold the brushes in? I use this little metal tab right here. If you push the brush all the way in and you put a, you know, like a pin, it's gonna prevent the brushes from coming out while you put this in, all right? On the outside, I put a little dielectric grease on there so it will spin freely and give you less issues as far as resistance. Inside, I will clean this, make sure that this is clean and free of debris. As you can see, there's some stuff in here and it's really nasty and dirty. That's gonna get cleaned out. And then finally, the gear, okay? A lot of times you'll see what happens is you hear the motor spin, but what happens is there's no action here, is because what happened is inside here, there are plastic balls, okay? Those little plastic round cylinders, not balls, but cylinders, would then grab a hold of this right here and turn it. Now, the reason why they used plastic back in the day was if something happened, like for example, if your kid put his, you know, neck out there and the window started actuating, the plastic was supposed to give way and not necessarily choke your child. Now, I would argue that chances are that your child would probably not survive with a new motor, is because they're so fast, and that plastic would take quite a bit of resistance to break. So But over the course of time, what has happened is that these have become very old, and they become very brittle. And you could buy rebuild kits. I think Rock Auto used to sell rebuild kits. I'm not sure if they still sell them, but even if they don't, there is something that you could put in here to solve that issue. And that would be, I'll show you. Sorry for the mess, but I have in my shop, it's called 10 millimeter nuts, or 3/8 nuts you could use in here. So what you'll do is you'll take 3 of these. Now, if you plan on having your kid or your dog ride passenger, I would suggest that you get the plastic ones, okay? Anyways, this has the end. You don't want to use those. But what you'll do is you'll put a bolt or a nut in here like that on each side. Then after that, what you'll do is you'll drop this in here, and then it will lock into place. And what happens is it will lock this gear and prevent it from spinning as a result of the broken plastic. So let me take this out here. So what's going to really happen is it's going to sit in here, right? So when you have them sitting in there, okay, you'll have 3 of them, 1, 2, 3, and when they sit in there, it's going to spin and it's going to be very firm. Now, since I don't have kids riding in my car and I don't have my dog riding in the car, I don't mind using this method. Now, if you have children or if you have dogs that ride on the actual elbow rest, I would suggest maybe you go to the plastic ones. Either way, they both work well. So, in review, clean the commutator. And how did I do that? Basically, you get some emery cloth and you clean that. And then, if you look, there is some fine lines right here. What you want to do is you want to take something very sharp and you want to make sure that those lines are clean from debris, because if you have carbon built up in them, you're not going to have the proper magnetism between the stator, and then the magnet on the outside, which will prevent it from turning. So make sure that you clean the outside and then make sure each line is cleaned out. Once you do that, there's a good chance that when you put this back together, it will work. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put this back together, and then we're going to test it together, and hopefully it does work. And now you will know what to do in order to put it back together and put it in. The last thing I'll talk about are these 2 gaskets. All right, chances are you're not going to be able to find them. All right, you might be able to find them, but I don't think they make rebuild kits for them. It's because typically Dorman, they probably had a company that built these and rebuilt these, and they have the gaskets. Now, with today's technology, you could probably buy, or you could probably use silicone. And my suggestion is you can use some silicone, or what you can do is you can get some thin gasket material and you could trace that out and build your own gaskets. Now, that would be time consuming, but it's a way to do it if you want to use fabric. If you want to use silicone, you could probably go ahead and get away with the silicone. This isn't going to be under weather. It's not going to have oil against it. So I'm thinking that it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to use silicone if that's what you have. All right, so till the next video, after I have it put together, thanks for watching. And if you liked it, give me a thumbs up. Comment if you like. Thank you.